Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video we will continue our building of Angular application. So in the last one we have completed the login and register things, right? So we were able to register the user and we were able to log in into the system. Now here we will talk about implementation of the refresh token. So the reason behind this is that suppose you are login as admin, okay? So if you log in as admin 1 2 3 4 5, so you come to this add movie page for now, okay? And here we will have a add movie form. Now when we will be sending the data to the this form data of add movie for adding the movie and calling this controller, we have here movie controller, okay? So here it requires the data in this format first of all, that is okay, but there is another thing is this is a protected route, okay? And it will check in the header, it will check for a header name as authorization, and then it will check for a valid token, it will check for a valid token, okay? Now the thing is, in the JWT service where we are defining the expiry date or expiry time of our token, we have set currently to 25 seconds, okay? So it would have been expired, and what we will get a JWT token expired error, okay? So to avoid it, we need to refresh a token whenever our JWT token is expired. So for that we will be implementing the refresh token functionality, okay? So there will be some changes in the auth service that we will be doing it, okay? So let's begin with it. Now first thing is, since we have to work with the JWT token and we also need to check whether the token is getting expired or not, or the token is valid or not, so we have to get the information out of the token, right? So for that we have one library known as JWT decode, which we will install, because this will help us to work with the JWT token on the front end side. So let's go here, open our terminal, and here just paste this. So it will install this library JWT decode, okay? Now what we have to do is, let's rerun our thing once again so that everything works fine, okay? Perfect. Let's log out from here, and now we will be using this library to get the information from the token, right? So one method we will require is token expired, right? It will take a token of type string and it will return a boolean. Now we will have something known as decoded token, or decoded, we can say, yeah, decoded token, actually it is right. So we will use this JWT decode, and inside it we will pass token, okay? And then simply we will return decoded dot, it has a field of expiry into 1000 and date dot now, okay? For this let's take it just any for here, okay? It will resolve the type issue. I have earlier told that to not use any, but there are some special cases where we can use, so we will discuss it about later in some other video about this, where to use any. For now, for getting out of this error, I have used any, okay? Now here what this means, first we have decoded the token, and if we decode the token, now we will get the information about the token. So how we will get the information about the token? If you go here, JWT token, and this is a website of it, let's explore this, so we will get to see. So here is how the token looks like, correct? Now it has many things, it has header, it has payload, it has a signature, okay? Now in the payload it will somewhere be having one expiry date also, because we have set up the expiry time, right? So we are using the expiry field of this JWT decode, and we are multiplying it by 1000, and we are comparing it with the current date. Okay, so if the token is still less than it, then it will return true, else it will return false. Correct? We have set up this method. Now for handling a refresh token, we will use the refresh token to get another access token or JWT token. So what we will do, we will write a method known as refresh token. Now this will be of type actually observable. Okay, observable any. And so the reason behind that this will be a type of observable is the purpose of this method is to observe the changes, or to observe the change if it comes in a refresh token, or if a token is required, a new token is required using the current refresh token. So for that purpose this is being made as observable. So we will make it refresh token equal to session storage dot get item refresh token, and then we have a method. If you remember, in auth controller we have a method of refresh, right? So we will use this method. So return this dot http dot post, and I think we have defined a base URL here. Okay, fine. So backtick dollar this dot base URL, and after that API slash v1 slash auth. Okay, so API slash v1 slash auth slash refresh. Okay, and then we will send refresh token. So it takes one request body, which is a refresh token request. Basically it takes a refresh token request. So we need to define this. So let's define this also. Export type refresh token request, and in refresh token request what we have a string of type refresh token. So refresh token of type string, that is all we have to define, right? Sorry, yeah, this much. And then we will pass something known as, we'll create a object of refresh token request. So refresh token object equal to, okay, this will be of type refresh token request, and we will have refresh token as refresh. We can simply say ref token. Okay, this is, let's change the type, so it can be of string or null. Okay, so this is how we are doing it, and then we will just pass refresh token object, and then we will use a pipe to tap into it. So pipe, and we will tap the response like we have done earlier. So response of type any, and then what we will do is we will save. Now what response we will be getting? So if you go here in controller, auth controller, okay, if you go to auth controller, so you can see that it is generating a refresh token, and it is sending the new access token as well as a refresh token, right? So we have to tap this response, and we will save this new access token. So if our access token is expire, we are saving this, and we are saving in the name of access token. Okay, access token. Okay, so res dot access token, perfect. And if there is an error, then we will catch the error, and then what we will do is we will do a logout, right? And we will return throw error. That's it. Okay, so basically what we are doing is, if our access token is expired, we are calling this particular endpoint to get a new access token, and we are setting this new access token in our session storage again. Okay, else if there is an error, so what can be an error? So error can be only in one instance, which is like one or two instances can be like that. Suppose our refresh token also expires, so in that case we have to take the user to the login page. there is no other option to do any other thing. Okay, so in that case we will do the logout. Okay, so this thing is clear, right? Now we have done all these methods and all are working fine, but there is one thing that we have to do it, and there the thing is we have to build a interceptor. Now what is the requirement of the interceptor? The requirement of interceptor, or the from the word itself you can know the meaning that it has to do some kind of intercept a request. Why we need to intercept a request? Suppose we are trying to add a movie. We are sending the data from the Angular to the Spring Boot backend. Now the Spring Boot backend will not just take the data, but it will first check whether this request which is coming, does this request have a header which contains an authorization, and in the authorization, if it contains, does it contain a valid access token? These two things the Spring Boot backend is going to check. So we can just send the movie request, but for every request we need to send an authorization header with valid access token in the header. So for that functionality we need to implement a interceptor. So what we'll do is inside app only just create a folder, write interceptors. Okay, and in interceptor create a new file known as auth.interceptors or interceptor.ts. Okay, perfect. And we can create a function, export function auth interceptor. Earlier in the earlier Angular versions, if you are working with or if you have worked, you will notice that there would be a class, but now it is a functional way to do the things. Okay, now here what we are going to define. First we define a request, http a request, and it will be of type unknown, and second we will define next, http handler function. Okay, so these two are the things. Now how do I know that these two are the things? So if you go to the documentation, let's go to the Angular documentation, Angular interceptor. Okay, so if you go to the documentation, you will see that, see here, it has created an interceptor of like this, right? So from here you can just get an interceptor. Okay, now what our interceptor is going to do? First we need an auth service to work with the interceptor. So we will say we need an auth service, we want to inject it, so inject auth service. Okay, now what kind of request do we need to intercept? Now if we are doing a login or a register or refresh, we don't want such a request to intercept, we just want to pass it. Okay, so for that we have to write an if condition, that if request.url.includes authenticate, or if includes login, or request.url.includes register. Okay, includes register, or request.url.includes refresh. Okay, if any of these three are included, just forward the request. Next means to forward the request. Okay, so it is like a filter, you can say. Interceptors are like the filter. If you go here in this, and if we go to our service, auth filter service. Okay, so what we were doing here, if auth or header is null or auth header is not starting with bearer, we were just saying filter chain dot do filter, and we were just passing it. Okay, so in the same fashion this next is doing it, right? So for any other request we will implement the things. Also suppose if the user is already authenticated. Okay, so if auth service dot is authenticated, then in this case we will get the token from the storage, get the token, get item access token, and then we will modify the request. Now to modify the request I will be writing a function. So we will write a function known as function add token, because this we will be using multiple times. So request of type http request of type unknown, and we need a token of type string, right? And we will just return req dot clone. We will clone the request and we will set the headers. Okay, so we will set the headers. We will say authorization backtick bearer dash space and then the token. This is the common thing that we have to do for all the requests, right? So I've written a function for it. Now what I will do is I will say request equal to add token and then the current request which is coming and the token. So we have this double exclamation ensure that token is not null. Okay, so this is the case. So we have to ensure that the authentication service or this service is only doing or is adding the token in the header of a request when the user is authenticated. Okay, and of course the token is valid. So let's come here first in the service, and in the authenticated method we will modify the authenticated method a bit. So what we will do is we will say this one is correct, but we will also say and not this dot is token expired. Okay, and we have to pass a token actually. So let's do what is, let's get the token first. So the token equal to session storage dot get item and access token. Okay, so the first thing we have to ensure that token should not be equal to null and then it should not be expired. Is token expired, and we'll pass the token. If these two conditions are true, then only allow the user. Okay, so this is a change that we need to do. And now in the interceptor, if the user is authenticated, token is valid, we are sure of it. So in this case we will modify our request. But then what about the other case? If it is not this, then what we will do is we will simply say return next request, create a pipe and then catch error. Here error, we want error of type http error response, http error response. And then what we will do is, if error, we will check the status of the error, what kind of error we are getting. Now there can be multiple errors. Okay, so in case of 401 error, which is unauthorized error, the only thing that will be a case is that the JWT token is expired. So in this case, in this kind of error, okay, for this kind of error, what we will do is we will create a method to handle it. Else for all the other errors we will say throw error. So throw error, and we will just throw the error. Okay, now we have to create a method. We will create another method which will handle this 401 error. We will say function handle 401 error. Again the same thing will come. Let's copy it from here, and we need to inject two things. First is const auth service we will require. So let's inject this, and we will require a router, because depending on what is the case, we have to do the routing also. We will simply say if auth service dot, we will call the refresh token. Okay, now refresh token, when we are calling, it is an observable, so it will either get a new token for us and it will set the new token for us in the session storage, but it can also give a error in case the refresh token itself expires. So in that case we have to say pipe, we will tap the response and we will check. So you can write switch map. In this we will have token of type string, and what we will do is if we get a token then it is okay, or we can just do what is session storage dot set item. We ourselves will set up the token. Okay, if we get the correct token, and we will just return next, and we will use the method add token request comma token, right? So in case the refresh token is not expired and we are getting new access token from this refresh token method, we are just setting that access token in the session storage and we are forwarding the request by adding the authorization header. But in case there is a error, so we will say catch error and then what we'll do is we'll say auth service dot logout. We will log out from here. The router will navigate to login page. Okay, and we will return the error. Perfect. Yep. So we just have to call this method here. So in case there is a 401 error, call this handle method and pass the request and next into it. That's it. Okay, so our interceptor is also ready, so we can use it, right? So now we are ready to handle all the cases of login logout, as well as if we require to refresh the token, or if refresh token expires, access token expires, we are now not worried about it. So we don't have to again and again do login and generate a new refresh token, or we even don't need to change the time. So here, if we would not have set up all these things, what we have to do is again and again change this expiry date time. But now we don't have to do it because we have automated the whole thing by using the interceptor. Okay, so this is a advantage of the interceptor. But one more thing you have to change here. Here you have to come and we need to configure our interceptor. So what we will do is you have to say with interceptors, and you have to name the interceptor. So it takes a array of interceptors. So auth interceptor, it will auto import, and that's it. So this is a configuration you have to do in the app.config file. Okay, now if we go to our Google Pay and our application, let's refresh it. Now let's log in with admin. So gmail.com 12345, and if we log in, we are getting perfectly. And now no errors will come. Even if the token expires, everything will be handled automatically. Okay. Now one thing, if you have noted, we have logged into the page, but here the name is not coming. Okay, so if you have remembered that here we were also having a h2 name and then logout, but if we refresh, you can see the name is coming. So this is a problem. The problem is the name is not coming instantly when we are logging in. So the problem here can be solved using the use of signals. Okay, so what we will do is we will remove this. There's a only simple change we have to do, and we have to create a signal of type string or null, and you have to put inside this, put the whole thing inside it. Okay, that's it, and save it. Now if you log in admin@gmail.com 12345, okay, here it is coming null. The problem here is we have to call the signal. So signal is called using method. Now if you see, we are getting the admin, correct? So we have solved all the basic problem which were related to login and logout. So this part is done. Now we can completely focus on our movie controllers, whether it is add movie, display movie, update movie, or delete movie. So from the next video, we will be focusing on doing all these CRUD operations. So that's all for this video. Please give your feedback in the comments, like the videos, share it with others, and that's all. Thank you. Bye bye.